Before you fall in love with the barbecue, the Chiefs, and those fancy renderings of downtown, there's some stuff you need to know about Kansas City. And I'm not talking about the basics like we have a lot of fountains or the cost of living is way lower here than the coasts. I'm talking about the real life, boots on the ground, I wish someone told me this before I moved kind of stuff. Because yes, Kansas City is booming, but that boom, it's complicated. And if you don't know where to look, how to plan, or what's actually changing in the city, you could make a move you regret. So in this video, I'm breaking it all down. What's driving the growth, what it's like to live here, the neighborhoods people are loving, and the realities they're not always prepared for. My team and I have helped hundreds of people relocate to Kansas City, and we've seen what works and what doesn't. So if you want the real scoop, local insight, and a little dose of Midwestern truth with your burn-ins, you're in the right place. And hey, if you're thinking about making the move, shoot me a text or an email at info@movingtokc.net anytime. My team and I would love to help you find the right fit in KC. Let's get into it. So let's talk about it. Why are people packing up and heading to Kansas City? Short answer, opportunity. Between 2020 and 2024, the KC Metro added more than 50,000 new residents, and that number is still climbing. And no, it's not just folks moving here from the Midwest. We're seeing people from California, Texas, Florida, even New York, all drawn to Kansas City's combination of affordability, job growth, and lifestyle. We're talking about people who want a real house instead of a closet-sized condo, people who want walkable neighborhoods and backyard space, people who are done paying $3,000 a month in rent and getting a view of a brick wall. And here's the wild part. Kansas City is still relatively under the radar. You're not seeing bidding wars like in Nashville, at least not everywhere. And unlike cities that have already popped, KC is still in that sweet spot where the prices are reasonable and the upside is real. On the employment side, companies are paying attention. We've had more than $5 billion in business investment announced over the last few years, including Google's massive data center, the Panasonic EV battery plant in DeSoto, and new expansions from companies in logistics, healthcare, and manufacturing. Kansas City has a history as a transportation and distribution hub, but now it's branching out, leaning into tech, renewable energy, and remote-friendly industries. And if you're working from home, you can live 20 minutes from downtown, own a home with a yard, and still have enough left over to try every barbecue joint in town twice. So yeah, people are moving here for a reason, but hang tight, because just like any fast-growing city, that growth comes with its own set of trade-offs. Okay, so the job growth is real, the housing prices are solid, but what's it actually like to live in Kansas City? Here's the honest answer. It depends on where you land. If you're downtown or in the urban core, think Crossroads, Westside, River Market. Expect walkability, art galleries, rooftop patios, streetcars, and late night tacos. It's a creative vibe with lofts, boutique shops, and events every weekend. Great if you want energy, culture, and no yard to mow. Head south and you hit places like the Plaza, Brookside, and Waldo, charming, tree-lined neighborhoods with front porches, local coffee shops, and more dogs than people. These areas feel like small towns within the city. Great for families, remote workers, or anyone who likes walking to brunch and knowing their neighbors. Then you cross into Johnson County and the energy shifts. Suburbs like Overland Park, Lenexa, Prairie Village are clean, quiet, and super well maintained. Top schools, master plan communities, think soccer leagues, trail systems, and cul-de-sacs full of minivans and SUVs. You'll get space, safety, high-end grocery stores all within a 5-minute drive. Up north, North Kansas City is having its moment. Breweries, apartments, and a legit food scene. Parkville gives you that Rivertown charm. Liberty and Kearney offer small town vibes with room to breathe. The bottom line, KC is less about one big identity and more about a mix of micro communities, each with their own pace, personality, and pros and cons. But wherever you land, there's one thing you'll notice quickly. Kansas City moves a little slower in a good way. People wave at you, strangers say hi, and yes, you will be called hun or sir at dinner, and it will feel weird at first, but then it's kind of nice. But here's where things get real. Kansas City is booming, but it wasn't exactly designed to boom. Not at this speed. We're talking about a metro that's been spreading out since the 1950s when Kansas City started annexing land like it was playing Monopoly. Between 1946 and 1964, the city's population only grew by 12%, but the land area area grew by 423%. That's how you end up with a city that's over 300 square miles and still somehow has a traffic problem. But why does that matter? Because it means our infrastructure has been playing catch up ever since. Sprawl is baked into the way this city was built. So unless you live in one of the handful of truly walkable areas, you're probably driving a lot. We've got neighborhoods 35 minutes from downtown with zero public transit options. We've got sidewalks that stop halfway down the street. We've got bus lines that don't run on the weekends and an Amtrak station that feels like a ghost town half the time. And while the streetcar expansion is a step in the right direction, it's not solving the big issue. Kansas City was built for cars, and it shows. Add in the fact that we're growing fast with new development popping up from the Northland to South Overland Park, and the pressure starts to show. Roads need widening, schools need funding, and the city's got to figure out how to stretch those tax dollars across a lot of square footage. So yeah, Kansas City is affordable, but that affordability comes with trade-offs. You'll likely need a car. You might drive 20 minutes for groceries. You'll want to learn which highways to avoid at 5 p.m., looking at you, I-35. But if you're cool with that, you'll have space, a yard, a driveway, and depending on where you land, maybe even a view of the skyline and a quick trip to Costco. All right, let's talk about two of the biggest concerns people have when relocating to Kansas City: crime and schools. First up, crime. Kansas City often makes headlines for its violent crime rate, and yes, there are parts of the metro where crime is more common, but what those headlines miss is just how block by block this city really is. You'll find vibrant, family-friendly neighborhoods with a strong sense of community right next to areas still working through disinvestment and inconsistent city services. The key is doing your homework. I always point people towards tools like neighborhoodscout.com, Reddit threads from locals, and honestly, just driving around and getting a feel for different areas. You can't rely on national rankings alone. Now, let's talk about schools, because this one hits close to home for me. I've got two kids who've been in public schools in Kansas City, Missouri for the past few years, and to be honest, it hasn't always been easy. We've had to switch schools twice, each time hoping for a better fit or more stability. And right now, we've got our kids in private school, but even that's not a perfect solution or a long-term option for us, frankly. We're currently wrestling with the same decision so many families face here. Do we stay in the city or make the move to the suburbs for more school options and predictability? It's not a simple answer. The Kansas City Metro spans 2 states and dozens of school districts, each with its own strengths and challenges. On the Missouri side, districts like Park Hill, Liberty, and Lee Summit often stand out for families looking for strong public schools. On the Kansas side, Blue Valley, Olathe, and Shawnee Mission are frequently ranked among the top in the state and even in the country, depending on the metric. Even if you don't have kids, buying in a highly rated district can be a smart move long-term for resale value. But if you do have kids, it's worth starting your research early and weighing all the options, because trust me, it's one of the biggest decisions you'll face when moving to Kansas City. Now, you've probably heard Kansas City is affordable, and compared to other cities like Denver, Chicago, or Austin, it still is. But here's the part no one tells you. That affordability comes with a lot of fine print. Let's talk housing. You can still find homes in the $200,000 to $300,000 range across the metro, but many of them will need work or come with other trade-offs. Most of the neighborhoods people ask me about, places like Brookside, Waldo, Prairie Village, Parkville, Overland Park, Lee Summit, and Lenexa, have very few options below $400,000 and climb quickly from there. A newer home with good schools, expect to pay $500 to $600 plus. Now, let's get into the hidden stuff, the cost no one prepares you for. Property taxes are a major wild card in Kansas City, and in 2023, that wild card turned into a full-blown mess in Jackson County. Now, if you missed the headlines, the county attempted a massive reassessment of property values, which resulted in some homes doubling or even tripling in appraised value overnight. Appeals flooded in, the process was chaotic and deeply flawed, and many residents were left in limbo, not knowing how much they owed or if their mortgage escrows would even cover it. And the truth is, that saga isn't over. Owners of commercial properties are dealing with the exact same thing this year. So if you're moving into Kansas City, Missouri, especially on the east side of the metro, you need to know that property taxes can shift dramatically depending on the county, the school district, and whether another reassessment is around the corner. Meanwhile, parts of Johnson County on the Kansas side tend to have higher, more stable taxes, but it's still something you need to prepare for. And then we get into homeowners insurance, which has climbed across the region due to increased storm activity, or utility bills, which can spike in older homes, especially that haven't been updated for efficiency. So is Kansas City still affordable? Sure, in the right pockets, but assuming low cost of living across the board is a mistake I see all too often. But with the right strategy and someone who knows the area block by block, you can still land a great home at a solid price, but you've got to be aware of the trade-offs. By the way, if you're considering making a move, be sure to grab our relocation guide down in the description. Here's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make when moving to Kansas City. They fall in love with the house, but don't consider what day-to-day life in that area actually looks like. Maybe the home itself checks every box, but then the commute is brutal. Your go-to grocery store is 20 minutes away, and you're constantly driving across town for kids' activities, school, or work. Suddenly, that perfect house doesn't feel so perfect. So how do you avoid that? If you're a young professional or want walkability, nightlife, and culture, you're probably looking near the urban core. Think Midtown, Crossroads, North Kansas City, or the River Market. You'll trade space for location, but you get charm and energy in return. If school space and stability are more your speed, check out Johnson County suburbs like Overland Park, Lenexa, or Olathe, or on the Missouri side, Lee Summit, Liberty, or Parkville. These areas offer top-rated districts, newer homes, and family-friendly amenities. And if you want a little more land or that small-town pace, Spring Hill, Kearney, or Smithville might be the right fit. You'll be a little further from the action, but you'll get peace and privacy. The key is figuring out what matters the most to you: walkability or yard space, quieter streets, or nearby coffee shops. There's no wrong answer, but going in without a plan is the fastest way to regret your move. So yeah, Kansas City is booming, but it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of boom. If you're thinking about making the move, we'd love to help you sort through the noise. Give us a call or shoot us an email anytime at info@movingtokc.net, and we'll make sure you don't just find a house, you'll find the right fit. And if you're trying to find which neighborhoods are the best in the metro, be sure to check out this next video here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.